Hey there, welcome to episode 13, the Hub of Junior Golf Podcast. I am Ryan Burr, joined as always by the founder of the Junior Golf Hub, Roger Nick. Roger, certainly the golf sphere continues to rotate around. Every time we meet once a week, there is a new top story. We still wait for more to come out on how LIV and the PGA Tour will be won. Will they be won? What the new professional golf will look like. What was interesting coming out of TPC River Highlands and the Travelers Championship and the ridiculously low scores was Rory Mcilroy kind of discussing why the ball does need to be rolled back, because some golf courses, he was mentioning TPC River Highlands, is now just completely obsolete with how far the PGA Tour players are hitting it. At that golf course, at 59, 58, seemed to be in jeopardy by 5 or 6 guys ultimately every time they tee it up. So first, your thoughts. We're going to take questions today, a lot of questions from our viewers over the first 12 episodes of the podcast, but I want to start with what your thoughts are, and more importantly, how could this affect all the way down to junior golf if the ball indeed is rolled back?
Some interesting comments, but Roy's right. I mean, look at that. Look at the score, and what was it? They were better than 50 players at 16 under or something like that. I mean, unreal scoring. But I have to say, it was good scoring conditions too. I mean, the course was soft. They hit it long enough. I mean, heck, I think they had 3 drivable par 4s or something like that were, in the 370 range. I mean, or whatever it was, right? So, rolling back the golf ball, I thought that was a very interesting comment. I mean, I think this has come up over time before. How will it affect junior golf? How will it affect maybe the collegiate golfer coming out? Is that a question, Ryan? I think it's going to affect it. Not as much as we think.
Okay.
I just think the athletes today, I think if you look at the collegiate athletes today coming out of the Power 5 schools, and we've seen so many of these kids, the ACC, very strong players jumping out and winning on tour. Ricky, from Florida, winning, what was it, last year and almost winning again this year.
Yeah,
this week.
Almost went back to back.
Yeah, back to back. I mean, these guys are just different players than they were, several years ago when the ball definitely changed from balata to, 3-piece or 4-piece ball. But I also think that they're just getting better prepared. I mean, they know how to score. They know how to hit the golf ball long, which is, to your point, on the golf course now, it's a prerequisite. So I don't really think it's going to affect the top players as much. Certainly get down to the middle of the pack, and then at the lower echelon of players, I think it's going to be much more difficult for them to come out and make an impact in the PGA Tour or the Korn Ferry Tour. But I also think that they'll adopt pretty quickly, just because they are better athletes.
Okay, let me give you devil's advocate. So you're playing college golf, which with PGA Tour University, you have the opportunity to go straight to the PGA Tour, the Korn Ferry, like Aberg and Castillo have done. I'll play devil's advocate there. In college golf, you're hitting it, we'll call it 320 off the tee, and you're hitting a 9-iron or a wedge into many greens. Now you're going to the PGA Tour, where the conditions certainly to begin with are more difficult, and now you're hitting a 6-iron or 7-iron in instead of that 9-iron. The statistics are going to tell you you're going to miss more greens for sure, which then it's going to fall on your short game. Now, obviously that may do a better job of identifying who the best golfer is, but if you're playing the bulk of your rounds in college golf and amateur golf, hitting driver, pitching wedge, 9-iron because you're a bomber, and now all of a sudden you're hitting 6, 7, 8-iron in, you're not going to have the same proximity. You're going to miss a lot more greens, and I'm not saying they won't adapt over time. I guess my point, Roger, would be I'm not so sure they would come on and be ready to win. I think there would be a learning curve that would be more similar to in Major League Baseball. You're drafted hitting an aluminum bat in high school or college. You go to the minor leagues where you're no longer allowed to use the aluminum bat. And for some, they never are the hitter they were with the aluminum bat. They're actually career minor leaguers that never make it to the show. Others do adapt. but there is a giant learning curve going from the aluminum bat to the wood bat in baseball. Probably not the same as would be in golf, but there's for sure, just on statistics and analytics, if you're hitting it shorter off the tee, you're going to have a longer club into the green. If you have a longer club into the green, you're going to miss more greens.
No doubt about it. I would just add even one more variable there. What are they going to do about course conditions, right? I mean, at the end of the day, golf, PGA Tour course conditions, definitely firmer, faster, longer. So that's going to play a role in that as well, right? I mean, so what are the players going to do? Listen, if they're not taking PDIs at this point, they better start taking it. That's what I would say. They better assess their skills. Do they have the skills to work the golf ball, to score better, and control that trajectory? I think that's going to be a future play for sure. At somewhere down the line, right? But
hasn't that been a completely lost art in the game? Because you have to look no further. It was always said that the U.S. Open is bomber proof. You'll never have a guy that can just come and overpower a golf course because it's precision, precision, precision. Then they went to Winged Foot, where the rough was as healthy and as thick, and you would think as a deterrent as possible. And DeChambeau just completely overpowered it by not caring where he hit the driver, that he could hit a pitching wedge into every green and get through the rough.
Yeah, no doubt. I do think it's going to change, Ryan. I do think it would change that for sure. I don't think it's going to change how the golf athlete's going to work on their game necessarily, but they better start working on controlling the golf ball.
100%.
Yeah. The golf ball manufacturers. I think that's going to be the toughest one of this equation, right? Is that what do you do with the regular amateur player? What happens? Do they it's a completely, hey, it's like race car modified, racing, IROC races where you got the same car and everybody plays that on tour, and then everybody in amateur golf plays something completely different, right? So I think that was the argument many years ago with the driver and the COR and Arnold Palmer saying, no, I take pride in the fact that whatever driver I play, the amateur can play just like I play, right? So I wonder what's going to happen there, right? As a manufacturer, how are they going to see this as that it's a cost? Is it cost ineffective, for them, or is it going to change how people perceive their brand? Potentially, I guess, right? I don't know. That's to be to be determined, but. I think it'd be interesting because golf is one of those things that we talk about all the time, that, hey, no matter whether you're 8 or 80, you're playing the same game, just on a shorter or longer golf course, right? So I think that is one of the great lures about golf, is that I can play the same equipment that Roy played. I may not play it as well, but I certainly can play it, right?
Do you ultimately think it ever does happen?
I don't think so. I really think that I think that if they actually just change the golf course mindset, right? I think if they change, back to the fact that, grow the rough up, they don't have to make the greens any faster. I mean, they're already fast enough in most cases, but grow the rough up, make you hit shots versus, I think it will actually equalize. You go to Marion, think about it. Marion golf score, that's a great example of, you can bomb it all you want to. It ain't going to help you, if you will, right? I mean, that really protected itself with the shore golf course by just growing the rough, making it a little bit more penal around the greens, some of the roll off, some of the chip shots, right? So you had to have a good short game.
I guess then, it's always a yin and a yang. Like, do the sponsors want that? Does television want that? Does television loves eagles and birdies? It's always like, what, everyone's like, well, for the U.S. Open, I like it once a year. I like the guys to struggle. Well, if it's it's interesting, the players don't want it. That's for sure.
Right. No way. Yeah, no way. Yeah, they want to score big. I mean, it's fun, it's exciting. I mean, look at this week's ratings. I mean, they actually had better ratings than many other events just because it was exciting. It's like baseball, right? Major League Baseball. If it's a 1-0 game, or soccer, who's watching? No one,
Right.
right? And they want to see home runs and strikeouts.
Absolutely.
So I think golf is very similar to that, right? I think the U.S. Open. Actually, thinking about it, think about the British Open, right? Think about the creativity that happens around the British Open and how many players are competing, even on the golf course. It may be long or playing longer these days, but it's the guys who are actually hitting and creating shots that are really at the top of the leaderboard there. So I think it's really.
I've been look, Roger, the last two Canadian RBC Canadians Opens in 22 and 23, for my money, were two of the top 5 tournaments of the year, including majors. It's their national championship. They're played on old golf courses. The rough was up. They have a lot of more trees there. By the way, trees are they're getting rid of trees on the PGA Tour. You don't see a ton of trees. I'll tell you this: I don't care how hard you hit it. It's not going through a tree.
Right. That's right. Yeah, I can't seem to find that old adage, the trees are 90% air. I tend to find the tree trunk for whatever reason. Right. But I don't disagree with you. Yeah, again, back to an exciting tournament. The RBS was a really good event. Actually, the Rocket Mortgage coming up and the old Donald Ross course. Unfortunately, they had some weather, I guess, this week and knocked down some trees. So. Yeah, so it actually may play a little different with some of those trees gone from around some of those greens. But, again, they're playing golf courses that it's not all just big hitters that are competing there and making it exciting. So really, it'll be interesting. I just don't see them actually doing it. I really don't. You hear about it and you've heard about it a couple different times. I just can't see them actually rolling it back.
Probably too much money to be lost. All right, let's get into some of these questions for you, Roger. Big Ed says, great content.
Let's go, Big Ed.
Big Ed, can you supply some information for those of us who have kids who have started late in high school, competed, but are lost on how to get their names out there for college recruiting? Thanks. Keep the episodes coming. We love the podcast.
Awesome question. I would say right away, if you're not on the JRGOLFPOD.com, get on the JRGOLFPOD.com, start finding those schools that you're interested in, connect with those schools. But I would say also get on the Tournament Finder, find some events that's in an area that you're looking for and want to be in to play college golf and get on that radar. So I think that's one thing to do for sure. A couple of things, actually.
Roger, I appreciate Roger. This is a great podcast. I really appreciate the effort here. As a dad of a junior golfer, I'd love to hear about examples of successful junior golfers and how they navigated the junior golf circuit and how much do they practice every day.
Oh, wow. Boy, that's some good ones. So I would say, listen, going out and practicing, it doesn't have to be spent, you don't have to spend 8 to 10 hours out there practicing every day. It is about practicing the right things at the right time. How do you know that? I would say one of the best things you can do is get a player development assessment done, get a coach guided, get some guidance on where your skills are so you can actually practice the right things. And if you know that, it could be very efficient and very effective practicing less and getting more out of it because you're actually doing the right things. And I'm sorry, what was the other part of the question?
Asked about how much they should practice each day.
Yeah. So how much practice each day? Again, back to the being effective. It could be, 2 hours. It could be 3 hours. It could be 40 minutes. You may actually get more out of the 40 minutes than you are the 3 hours. It just depends on what you're doing. Going out to play, you still got to play golf. So part of your practice is playing and keeping up, with your rounds for sure.
Still a dad says, Roger, how about a little attention to those people who are post-junior golf, not attractive collegiately, but still love the game and might just need a few more years. In the interest of true diversity, schools should have one spot on the golf team dedicated to a non-heralded post-junior player. Any advice on tournaments to play if you didn't play college but still want to play post-junior?
Oh, wow. Well, as we were just talking about, golf is a lifetime game. So you want to enjoy the game, you enjoy competition. There are so many golf associations out there, your state, local, PGA sections usually run events that are open events. I would recommend highly to seek those out within your area, in your state, in your region. If you're not playing collegiate golf, or you're on the collegiate, or you're in college, they've got club golf. There's club events all over the country. They have a club golf national championship. I know there is
Mid-ams. I mean, there's a lot of.
100%. There are so many opportunities out there. Yeah, like you said, the USGA Mid-Am is out there. You got team events you can play in. So a lot of events out there for you that even if you didn't play collegiate golf.
Jim Wernaski, Roger, love the show. What is the sign-up code for the Junior Golf Hub if I watch every episode?
Oh, wow. Good one. And I'm gonna defer that one, right? I watch that every single time. It will be in the description of the show. So I'll need a little help on that, but I think it's Hub Junior Golf, code there. So you get that for free.
Okay. This is from Reed Phillips. Hey guys, absolutely love this podcast. As a junior golfer, I would love to hear. I would love to hear if schools care, if colleges care about high school results, AJGA results, or WAGR results. It seems unclear to me what matters the most.
Wow. You know what? That's a great question. And I would say it all matters, right? And they all matter for different reasons. I think high school results, as much as anything, don't matter from a recruiting perspective, but it matters because it's going to help you prepare you to play in those HAGA events and other events that you may get actually WAGR rankings in. So I would make sure that you're doing your best in all of those. So if you're playing in high school events, I would say it's going to be very difficult to play in other junior events during high school season. So that is something to consider now that some high schools have gone from spring to fall sport time. So it just really depends on what your schedule looks like around your area. But I would definitely play in all of them because you need the experiences. AJGA certainly at the top of the pyramid when it comes to junior golf events. You're going to get some time to play in some of those events as you get your skills better. And then WAGR, if you're getting a USGA or any other major invitationals, got WAGR rankings or professional events, more power to you. But I wouldn't necessarily focus on those as much, but it is important. The college coaches are going to be looking at all of those to see if you actually love the game. So I think that's really important to make sure your schedule is well balanced.
Next is from Wally. Says, I hear you talk about PDI every week on the podcast. I would like my son to do it before the summer and after. How do I do it?
Well, reach out to myself or Danny Randolph, Danny at the golfperformancecenter.com or Roger at the golfperformancecenter.com, or you can go on my PDI. You can ask for a request for a coach, sign up, and we can reach out to you and set up a time for you to go through it.
Awesome. So keep the comments coming. That's just a handful. We'll get to some a little bit later on in the program, but certainly this is for you. This is for the mom and dad and the junior players out there. We understand that the path of junior golf is a lot of different directions to go. And, probably the junior space is as disjointed, Roger, maybe as it's ever been before. And what I mean by disjointed is, depending on where you live and there's just so many different areas with people doing different things that it can be intimidating on how to try to figure out the best way, the best tournaments. Certainly as parents become more and more educated by their peers. They're all told about the ranking systems that exist out there. And we know that some of the pitfalls that exist because of that. Certainly, it appears that junior golf right now is a case of the rich getting richer. And what I mean by that is if you play in that super high-end tournament, no matter how you play, your ranking seems to go up. Conversely, if you play in what is deemed a less than tournament, regardless of how you play, your ranking can go down. Is there a way to fix this, Roger?
Wow. Is there a way to fix it? Yeah. If you're a golfer out there, parent out there, do your own thing, play golf because you love playing golf, compete because you love competing, worry less about rankings. I would say one of the things that, Ryan, you and I have talked about this so many times. How many players, start in an event and quit and play or withdraw from an event because they're not playing, well. Don't withdraw. I would just say don't withdraw. Unless you're sick and you really can't go on, don't withdraw from any events because coaches watch that for sure. But I would say, just playing golf because you love playing golf, finding events that's local, don't spend so much money traveling. I think that's just so important still.
What about the idea that, or do you subscribe to the idea? Earl Woods was famous, and I feel like very few people follow the Tiger path, which is now obviously he kept progressing and did win at every level. But Earl always said, no, even though at 12 he may have been the best 15-year-old, he played in that division and beat the kids his age. Like felt it was important there was an art to winning. I do see. Certainly in the tournaments that I'm at across the country, the push for parents to have their son or daughter play multiple age groups ahead, because it also is a way to circumvent that ranking system, because the strength of field for if you're 12 years old and you're playing in a 16 to 18, you could finish dead last, but your strength of schedule, because chances are those players are at least seasoned and higher ranked, your strength of schedule is going to really rise up. Would you advise parents to have their kids play in their proper age?
I would advise parents to have their kids play in the proper age group for sure. Right. I mean, I think it's one of the biggest lessons that we probably learned from Michelle Wee when she came around and, played up and played in boys events and men's events. If you really look at it, it probably hurt her more than it actually helped her. However, I'm sure in some senses it did help. I would just say if you're not winning, in your age group, your local group, don't worry about trying to go regional to kind of step up and get ranked. It could be, it could backfire. We see it backfire all the time in the sense of, the kid loses confidence. He's out there, he's overmatched, and just from a maturity standpoint, just can't handle that kind of pressure. And it's not that important, quite frankly. Junior golf, from 9 to 16, if you will. I mean, it's all practice. At the end of the day, that is just honing skills, developing skills, working, challenging yourself for sure, but don't over challenge yourself to kind of just get ranking points. Not worth it, and quite frankly, I think we see a lot more kids who drop out of the sport, especially the girls, when they're over challenged and it's just no fun anymore. I think if they're ready, I think it's got to be a team effort, meaning the player and the parent. The player has to have a voice in this, in the sense of, like, I want to play because I love playing and I don't mind competing and I don't mind losing to an older kid. But I would try to make sure that that's very, very limited in that sense, and really only do that if they've earned it. Right. So we always like to say, you got to earn the right to play up. You got to earn the right to do something different or greater. So
next question comes from Neil Walker. says my daughter plays about 23 ranked events per year. She plays much better golf in January, February, and March, and seems to hit a slump every summer. Do you think we're playing too many events?
23 ranked events a year. Wow, that's easy math. That's like two a month, right? I mean, ranked events, right? And traveling all over the country, and you get to you're all stressed out during school. Yes, the answer is yes, Ryan. I think that's too many ranked events for a young player to go through. Now, if maybe they're in a situation that they're not in a traditional school, and maybe they have the luxury of being able to travel all over the country. It's still a lot. I mean, look at the PGA Tour players. They're struggling to play 20 events a year. Many of them talk about they wish they would play only 14 events a year. Oh, wait a minute. There is Live Golf. That's only 12 events. So, I mean, I think that's a lot for a junior golfer to try to play that much stressful golf during really, really high growth periods in their lives as adolescent golfers. I think if you can find 12 really good events and be prepared for those events and play in other events that are maybe just developmental events, I think that's probably a little bit better schedule, mentally, physically, and just from golf development skills wise.
And I will add to that, certainly at 14 years of age, Neil, that bad habits are more apt to happen in tournament golf than they are in practice supervised golf, when you can work on certainly drills and see your coach and work on different parts of your game, go through PDI, etc. When you are in a tournament, so much of that is, and it has to be, but it's really unsupervised golf. You're talking about 23 tournaments. I think there's a direct correlation. He asked the correlation, was there a correlation with too many events in a slump? I 100% think worn out mentally, physically. When you're worn out, what happens to your swing? 100% bad habits can creep into a tired golf swing. We hear it all the time. So at 14, Rogers at 12, I think that's my personal opinion is that's too many at that age. If you are in a warm weather climate, you said you play your best golf in January, February, March. I mean, maybe take a month off in the summer, even when chances are, if you're playing in January, February, March, you are in a very warm climate where golf can really take a toll on your body if you're out in 100-degree heat or high humidity. So take a vacation. It doesn't mean, vacation doesn't mean you're not going to be a great golfer. It can actually improve the golf by letting that body rest. And, certainly, Roger, we've had, and we'll have guests from the Performance Center, but taking care of your body includes rest, Roger. Like, that is actually
it's the biggest part of it. Yeah, it's right. One of the biggest parts of it, right? I mean, rest and being able to get recovery time. I mean, that's a huge part of it. And to your point, and of this young lady, playing that many tournaments in that kind of climate, yeah, you're going to see it. You're going to see a downturn in play, and there's no doubt about it.
Yeah, so keep the questions coming. I think that we will tackle honestly and tell you what we think. Certainly, Roger has the expertise and is around some of the best professionals in the world. We haven't really ever gotten into putting on the program, Roger, and certainly if there is a number one struggle in junior golf, this is from parents directly to me. A lot of kids can really learn how to hit the ball and hit it well. I can't tell you how many times you say, how'd you play? I hit it great. I had 14 three putts or putting. I'm curious for your expertise on how do you practice putting, Roger? And, rather than, to go out and hire another coach that tells you how to putt, is there Is there a best way to learn how to putt and to, I know it's all part of PDI, but 3 putts in junior golf, probably one of the biggest pandemics in the sport is kids really struggle with their distance control with putting, which leads to 3 putts, which leads to higher scores.
No doubt. And I'm going to go right to one area that most people don't even think about, right? Is you're talking about adolescents who are going through a lot of growth spurts and a lot of growth and development, mentally, physically, that whole physiological connectivity to the brain, to the hands and the feet. So all that feel that you want to have in putting is probably from day to day absolutely going haywire. Right. So it is so difficult for a junior golfer in so many ways to not have some struggles on the greens and around short game. However, a good way to make sure that you're keeping in check of that is doing a functional movement screen, seeing if you're in a growth spurt, understanding a little bit more about what is actually taking place. And if you are going through an onset of a growth spurt, maybe taking some time and saying, you know what, I'm not going to compete. I'm just going to go work on my practice, putting, doing some drills, doing some things that are going to, challenge your balance, like some, we do a lot on half foam rollers or maybe some AirX pads where you're putting and you're feeling, you're having to create some proprioception and different feels. And then doing your normal putting practice, understanding center face contact is the most important thing. Not that you're doing a stroke like Rory Mcilroy or whomever, Brad Faxon, who's a great putter. It's really more about, developing consistent routine, a system for themselves as they're going through these growth spurts to be able to maintain center contact, consistency and timing. All of those things are what leads to being a great putter. But you can find some of those things on the golfperformancecenter.com, some drills and stuff. So, worth looking at.
It's interesting. That particular club, no matter who you are, I don't care what level of golf you are, that club will hit the golf ball more than any other club in your bag every single time you play. It's a fact. There's no way around that.
41% of your scores mostly, right?
Okay.
If you're a scratch golfer.
And then we go and we look. And what do? We all watch television, whether it's the LPGA Tour, the PGA Tour, the PGA Tour Champions, whatever you're watching, everyone's driver, the grip, I would say over 90% of golf grips are the same at all the highest levels. You may be talking about someone overlaps and someone interlocks, but you're talking about 95, 96%. Every single player holds the club as far as a grip goes, almost in a similar fashion. Then you watch your pros, because we all mimic who we watch on TV. And there are probably 8 or 9 different putting grips you could see in a 5-minute period on the PGA Tour, LPGA Tour. Yeah. You have people holding fingers up. You have people walking around. You have people turning their back to the hole. You have people holding their club out. You have caddies behind a player, then moving out. There is so much going on as far as what should I be doing. How do you decipher? and how would you even know how to whether it's aim point or using your feet? I mean, how do you even learn stuff like that?
You learn most of that, Ryan, like you said, from mimicking what you see the best players do, and then trying to seek out wherever they found it from. A lot of that might even be from YouTube, I would imagine. But again, it's back to the principles of it's got to work for you. It's got to be part of that discovery process for a player. As a junior golfer, I always say to our players a lot, hey, don't just mimic someone because you see and they look cool and it works for them, because it may not and most likely won't work for you. Create the system that works best for you, whatever that is. right? But understanding that if you're not, again, assessing your skills, what method you use, it doesn't matter, right? Because you're not really holding anything accountable to making sure that it actually works, right? So, a big part of why we created the PDI, the player, the assessment, is just so you can actually assess your skills, because you might not be as bad as you think you are. But to your point, I mean, that just goes to show you how mad we are when it comes to golf and putting, right? How in the sense of like mentally disturbed we get by getting the ball in the hole, with the putter. But it really just boils down to a couple, very simple, things, which is hit in the center of the face and have good timing, and you'll probably become a really good putter.
All right, so quickly, we'll just go through a couple and get your assessment on does it matter. We're talking junior golfer here. Roger, when you see a junior golfer that is arm locked or with the claw or left-hand low or conventional, I mean, certainly we see it all every week. And, if your 10-year-old putts better with the claw, then who am I to say that that's not the right grip for him or her? But there are so many different to pick from. How do you start with a junior golfer assessing how they should be putting, what grip they should be using?
Well, you know what? I'm a firm believer there's preferred fundamentals and there's primary fundamentals, and grip is one of those that's a preferred fundamental for the player and where they are, right? For a junior golfer, because we know there's a lot of growth that's going to take place, their hands and their feet are going to change tremendously over time. So whichever is most comfortable that you can actually control the club face with, that's kind of where we start. If it's effective, if it's consistent, and if you can get the ball in the hole without getting hurt, okay, it's great, right? And then over time, it just becomes, what does become comfortable based on, your hands and getting feeling and getting, all the attributes that you need to be consistent as a great player. Those all come in time, right? But I will say that, we talk a lot to parents and their young players about they're doing something because some other tour player's doing it, right? Okay, when it doesn't work, what then? What do? You just keep going around the merry-go-round. You kind of get on that mouse wheel, and it never stops. But so try to find something that you get comfortable with, that you can work on. It can be consistent. It can be a routine, and then go from there. I mean, I'm not a huge believer that, and I think our science and research has found that they all work. So at
Right.
some point in time, they all work. So it is a preferred thing for players to just get comfortable with.
I think my 2 cents on this is I think the best place to start is with a completely straight putt from 3 to 5 feet. And if your player, even though it's over and over again, if your player can make, on that perfectly straight putt, they can make 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 3, 4, 5 feet on a perfectly straight putt. That tells you that whatever stroke they're doing, they are getting that club face square with the hole and able to make a stroke that it goes in the hole, which everything else really isn't about the stroke anymore. If you can do that, that tells you that you're doing it right. Now, if you misread the hole of the putt, it really makes no difference, Roger, what stroke you're using at all. If you think the putt, if you are hitting, you just proved to yourself that your stroke can make a straight putt just about every time. Okay, it's no longer your stroke. So when you miss 3 straight putts, you can't be, I got to change my putting grip because I've missed 3 straight putts. You've already proved that your grip and your stroke can make a straight putt where where the ball is going in the hole. So,
right.
I think so many junior golfers in particular are changing their putting stroke based on the result of, I missed every putt from 8 feet. I missed 5 5-footers. I missed 6 3-footers. Well, I was aiming outside the hole on every one of them, and they all lipped out high side. Okay, yeah, there's a good chance, Roger. That's not the putting stroke.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Yeah. So how do you start reading the putt?
I think that, reading putt is an art. Reading putts are experience, and worry less necessarily about switching grips or trying crazy things that you see on TV. And once you've identified that stroke can make a 5-footer consistently on a straight putt, it's no longer about stroke and grip. It then becomes about can they read the putt properly, because they've already proven that they can hit their line. If they can hit their line, they should be a good putter.
No doubt about it. I mean, it's one of those things too. And we do a lot of research on, like iron Byron for putting, right? So that it comes off consistently. And we've done these tests from 3 feet rolling a ball, with a perfect putting stroke, or even just a step meter ruler. So it comes off perfectly, right? 3 feet, 7 feet, 8 feet, all kind of going through our PDI numbers, and how even with that, you miss some putts, right? No variable changes, right? There are instances where, you hit a wrong blade of grass or whatever it may be, and you miss the putt. And so I do think that, to your point, I think a lot of people get too caught up in trying to be too perfect, right? And there is no perfect, because you can have the perfect stroke, the perfect read, and you still might miss the putt. And that is not something that you can control. And I think that's where, so many of these players, you see them kind of, they call it that they're getting the yips, but they're trying to control a variable that they just can't control. And that's really tough for a junior golfer, and, or any golfer for that matter, right? I mean, I think we've all probably experienced a few, yippy moments, right? So, but yeah, I think you're right. I think if you can start where you start with a straight 3-footer or a 5-footer, and you're hitting it off the center of the putter face, the ball's going in the hole. It's learning learning the art of reading the greens, whatever that may be, whether it's aim point, whether it's just walking the green, whether it's you got a contour book and you just know what slopes are, more power to you. But I think it really is less about the putting, the mechanical parts of it, the, setting up to it, all of those things. They just have to be consistent. Billy Mayfair has shown us, over the years that here's a guy who's got probably one of the worst putting strokes ever, but he hits it in the center. His consistency is great, and he makes a lot of putts, right? So, little story. We were doing some testing on the PGA Tour, and we had all the best players at BMW Championship this many years ago. And there was a guy named TW that we measured, and we were thinking, oh my God, this is going to be just incredible. It's going to be so perfect. And on the Science Motion Lab, he gets on there and he's aimed 3 degrees right of the hole almost every time. Very consistent. But he also made every single putt, every single time, right? So, but he had one of the highest closure rates of his putting stroke, right? So, even that, he wasn't perfect, right? And we kind of, asked him, hey, did you know that? And he goes, yeah, I tend to do that. He goes, but I don't worry about where I'm aimed. I'm thinking where the hole is, so I know what I'm going to do to make the adjustments. And this was in a time and place of this person's career that he didn't miss any putts inside of 4 feet for, I can't remember how many weeks or how many years it was, right? And here's the guy that wasn't, quote unquote, perfect with his putting stroke. So it's so much of it is also just mentally how confident you are about your skill, about what you know about yourself. So that's a big part of it too.
And last thing on the putting, I'm a huge proponent of putting games. Fun, super fun putting games. Listen, there's a reason there are 1 million miniature golf courses. Putting can be fun. When you take your son or daughter out and you put them on a putting green in 90-degree heat and tell them to putt for 2 hours, it's a recipe for disaster. putting games, fun games, competitions. You parents, even if you're not a great golfer, you can putt. Everybody can putt and have fun, make games. There are a million different games you can YouTube, Google, fun putting drills that make it a blast. Like some of the funnest times you can have with your kids are putting contests where you laugh and it's there. The pressure's not there, but they're getting better, and they're in competition, and you guys are together, which at the end of the day is the name of the game. I love to go putt. Do these games at in the summer at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night when the sun's down, it's cool out. There's a lot of people around, people have their dogs out. It's a relaxed atmosphere, but you can get a lot done without, really killing yourself out there doing, putting drill after putting drill by yourself. So just a little thing, always try to make it fun, but with putting, a lot of it does come down to practice and trying different things. As you said, you don't have to be perfect, but especially if, you're not putting a whole lot and then you show up at a tournament and you wonder why you're not putting great. And then that pressure goes into the putting where I've got to make this putt and you're strangling the putter. Have fun with it on those off times, on vacation, go to, I know they're not real greens, but even the putt places, you still have to put a good putt on it to get it through the clown's mouth. So, there's ways to do it.
Absolutely. Just like Colin Morikawa on the elephant on the commercial he does, right? You got to get it through the elephant's nostril or hose there. Yeah.
And there's a guy who hits it as good as anyone that has a different putting stroke every week. So, it does happen all the way out. Putting is, I think, Roger, you said it beautifully. It's the one thing you can actually do perfect and still miss. So give yourself a break, have fun with it, try some different things. Make your practice light, though. Putting can be so boring if you're just out there banging putt after putt. Again, you lose concentration so easily. Have a fun competition with your parents and the kids that it just make it fun. I think that's the end all there.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it was one of the things we did in our academy, Ryan. We had a miniature golf put in, so the kids had great competitions. Michael and all his buddies there, they used to go out and play, have all these putting games and do some betting for some ice cream and stuff like that. But just being creative, right? I mean, they was just doing that and being creative and practicing, whether they knew they were practicing or not, but just really, putting the ball in the hole. So yeah, keep it fun.
We do have some questions quickly about the Performance Center. As people are checking it out online and looking into it, how do you go about assessing what is the right fit for the Performance Center, and whether they're from New England or other parts of the country where it would be a move situation, a boarding situation? What's the best way to just get informed and educated on the Performance Center?
Yeah, check it out, thegolfperformancecenter.com. Go through. There's a couple tabs there. We've got some summer programs going. You can check it out that way. You can come out for the summer, spend a couple of days, go through an assessment, know where you are, see if it is a good fit for you or not a good fit, but definitely very educational for sure. You can check that out on thegolfperformancecenter.com.
And keep the comments coming for sure every couple of weeks as we continue to have coaches in different parts of the junior game. We'll have I've got some of the biggest coaches, swing coaches in the game are lined up to come on over the next couple of months. So that will be great to see what their thoughts are on teaching, and especially with juniors. So I look forward to bringing some of the biggest coaches in on. We'll continue to get into rest and how to properly eat in a round, before a round. There's so many things that we will delve into over the summer and into the school year here on the Hub of Junior Golf podcast. Roger, as always, fun show today. Keep the comments coming, and certainly we will continue to tackle this and try to make this roadmap, if you will, of junior golf a little bit easier for the parents out there.
Thanks, Ryan. Good stuff.
All right. So until next time, that's going to do it for the Hub of Junior Golf. For Roger Nick, I'm Ryan Burr saying until next time, so long, everybody.